Everybody, give it up for my girl, Destiny Deas! Woke up feeling like I just...
All right, let's do this. Hebrews 12:1 says this, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us." I'm a fourth-generation Pentecostal preacher chick. My great-grandmother was preaching on street corners when they still had covered wagons, and I'm grateful to be a part of a fellowship that understands that the Great Commission is going to go a little faster if half the church isn't sitting on their hands. Can we give it up for the women church planners in the house? But today is a first for me. I have never preached under threat of air horn. In fact, air horns remind me a lot of high school football. I think there's a lot that we can learn from sports, and that's probably why the writer of Hebrews, even 2,000 years ago, used sports as a metaphor for the life of faith. And the race of Hebrews 12 looks like this to me. Go, fight, win. Go into all the world. Go is uncomfortable. It's incessant. You don't just get to go once or twice. You have to keep going from challenge to challenge until eternity. And you know what? Jesus didn't act like it was going to be a picnic. He said, pick up your cross daily and follow me. Notice he didn't say, crawl up on your cross and hide from the world. Instead, he said, pick it up as you go. You know, going can sound really sexy, but it's sacrificial. And going into all the world also means going into the parts of my world that I'm not comfortable with yet. It looks like going into the neighborhood where people look different than me, act different than me, sound different than me, where I need to listen a lot more than I talk, where I need to learn more than I teach, where the relation-making, bridge-building, sacred work of the church happens. See, going isn't running away from anything. It's running to something. It's running towards the dark places and the messy people over and over again. The race always starts with going, but it's not enough for us to go. We've got to fight. We've got to fight the good fight of faith. You know, the life of faith, it's really the fight of faith. There have been so many years that I've rolled out of bed exhausted, rolled into meetings exhausted, and I tell my husband, you know what? It's just a season. No, it's not. It's the fight, and it never stops. Sometimes we think that the fight's over just because we've surrendered to the call, quit the job, moved to the city, and planted the church. Oh no, my friend, it has just started. It's a fight at 100. It's a fight at 300. It's a fight at 500. And as we cross 1,000, it's still a fight. There are people in this room who pastor churches that are bigger than small towns, and they'll still tell you that the fight never, ever stops, because we have to fight to get better every single day. We have to fight to stay true in a culture that constantly shifts. We have to fight to be honest with ourselves. We have to fight to stay connected to our families. We have to fight our feelings. We have to fight fear and depression and insecurity and fear. We have to fight comparison and entitlement and discouragement. We have to fight to keep believing even when we're not seeing what we have hoped and prayed and cried for. See, Paul says it's not shadow boxing. That means that this fight of faith, it's a contact sport. Sometimes we're going to end up bloody and hurt, but we can't stop fighting, because we have to fight besides our brothers and our sisters in China and in Sudan and in Egypt who don't get one day off from carrying their cross. You know, I've learned that as long as I know it's a fight, I'm all right. It's when I think it's going to be easy that I get angry and I get discouraged and I get disappointed. You know what we need? We need some banged up, tough as nails, kick the devil in the head, unoffendable, get up one more time, Jesus followers who aren't afraid to fight. But it's not enough to fight. We got to win. See, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 9 that we run to win. We do not need any more sanctified losers. We don't need people who are going to make excuses about why they can't confront culture and they can't lead themselves and they can't build teams. No, we don't need Pentecostal fatalism that equates success with not being serious of the gospel. What we need is we need a few more winners. We need people who are willing to win the battle against racism in our own hearts and in our church pews, who are willing to win the battle against pornography and sexual immorality in our homes, the battle against debt and bad stewardship in our pocketbooks. We need people who are willing to win one more city, one more soul, one more day, one more time. Winning requires submitting everything. It requires us to truly believe with all of our heart and live a life that looks like it. Colossians 3:1-2 in the made-up version says this: so if you're serious about living this new resurrection life with Christ, act like it. Pursue the things over which Christ presides. See things from his perspective. You know, a new perspective changes everything. Our second daughter, Julietta, there came a time when she was 4 where things just weren't right. She didn't want to color, she didn't like to draw, and she had no interest in books. She had a hard time sitting still or paying attention. So we called a specialist, fully expecting a diagnosis that would help us to start meeting her needs. And instead, she told us to go get her eyes checked, which I thought was weird and kind of a comment on my parenting. But when we did, what the doctor said is her eyes are weak, she can't see. And the day that she got her glasses, everything changed. Her behavior changed. Her interests changed. Her ability changed. Even her attitude changed. When you have a new perspective, it changes everything. And that's why you're here today. But when we see the race of Hebrews 12 through the eyes of Jesus, everything changes. Because before you were a church planner, before you were a pastor, you were a Jesus follower. And before he asked you to go fight and win, he showed you go fight and win. Jesus was willing to go, to come to us. He was willing to fight death, hell, and the grave, but he also won. And we do not exist as a movement because he came or because he fought. We exist because he won. And because he won, we can win too. Hebrews 12 is preceded with a listing of winners, people whose prayers and people whose thoughts still echo through the ages. They went into heaven still believing for things that they never would see. And you know what? I want to be one of those people. I want to show up at heaven's gates dirty and bloody and tired from going to the difficult places, from fighting the fight of faith, and from winning over and over and over and over again. I want to be one more witness, waving at the future I helped others see was possible. The next generation, hear me, will not be here because we go or because we fight. They will be here because we decide to win. Go fight, win.